Welcome
Thank
to
you.
episode number 23 of the Electric Honk podcast, filmed live at twitch.tv. Electric_Honk.
It's only been 2 weeks since our last podcast, so we're on track.
We're actually on track. We do film these once every 2 weeks when we can be bothered. The next one will be on the 25th of May.
Yep.
I'm MachineDaena, recently tanned in Lanzarote.
Recently tanned. I'm Andrew Salmon, not recently tanned, but famous Coronation Street Extra.
Very famous.
Yeah. Crowned Coronation Street Extra of the Year. Whatever year it was.
Speaking of crowned, we're a couple of days after the Prince's crown. So the title of this podcast is The Crowning of Old Sausage Fingers, which is actually my favourite podcast title.
Ever all podcasts.
Actually, ever, yeah.
It's great.
We ditched the goose puns after about 15 or 20 of them.
Yeah, we ran out.
We ran out. What have you been up to, dude?
Well, it just feels like since the last podcast, it's just been a bank holiday fest. For me, bank holidays aren't like, nice, get an extra day to relax. It's like, it's another day of it's 3 days in a row of looking after the toddler instead of two. And you think, what can we do to? We were
looking at our stats for the podcast, and it turns out that about 75-80% of our listeners are in America. Yeah. So for you Americans that don't have a clue what we're talking about, a bank holiday in the UK is basically just a public holiday.
Yeah, a day off.
It's not really like that when you're a parent, is it?
It's not. First thing is you got to look at the weather. Like, can you spend a portion of the day outside running around getting them tired?
Yeah.
If not, you're going to have to go to a soft play centre or something like that.
I like the soft play centres.
Yeah, they are. They're quite a good day out as long as you don't overuse them. So I feel like I've just been passing the time. Obviously, one of the bank holidays was because of the King's coronation. So it wasn't a usual.
That's always nice. An extra day for the UK public.
Yeah. We managed to get a photo of our toddler stood in front of the telly with the King being crowned.
That's
quite a historic moment, isn't it?
Oh my God, that makes me sad that I didn't do something like that. We was actually in Lanzarote at the time, and they didn't have it on the TVs. I mean, I can't think why on a small island in Lanzarote in Spain they would have that.
I mean, Europeans seem to be quite interested. In fact, most people around the world seem to be quite interested in the UK monarchy.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few people from Canada, and they were dead into it, which just makes me... But a lot of the British people I've spoken to about it are just totally indifferent.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case, isn't it? That actually it is a tourist attraction, essentially.
Yeah.
And it is foreign people that are more interested in it than we are.
We got a lot coming up in this podcast, filmed live at twitch.tv/electric_honk. So come follow us on there. Come chat to us. That's where we film it live. We then put a cut down version of this on YouTube, and then we also upload it to all the usual places: Spotify, Amazon,
Google Music, whatever it's called.
Deezer.
Yeah.
Although we're not on SoundCloud. We need to sort that out.
Yeah.
I did recently convert it on YouTube from being a video to a podcast on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
So it's now actually converted there.
So you've been recently tanned in Lanzarote?
I have, yeah. So I missed all of the coronation. It was good to get away, but I didn't have a clue what was going on in the UK. It went pretty well. I'd probably give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Got a good tan. 26, 27 degrees pretty much throughout. I managed to avoid being burnt until the last day. Now, we've got a toddler. She's 10 months old. Yeah. She's trying to learn how to walk. She's doing really well with it. She does this thing now, and on holiday, she started grabbing my hands and telling me to walk around the pool kind of thing.
Nice.
It's quite nice because like she wants to explore, and she knows how to tell us to do it by grabbing our hands. Yeah. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just do a quick 2 minutes, walk around the pool, put some sunscreen on, and then carry on playing. Yeah. 45 minutes later, I then sat down, and we'd stopped walking around the pool, and then I put some sunscreen on. Yeah. So, of course, my back got burnt to a fucking crisp. And it was a nightmare. And the next few days I just spent peeling, itching.
Yeah, it's that horrible itching feeling. It was the last fucking
day as well.
I've had some bad sunburn on my back before. I burn really easily, and I know how you feel. So,
whilst I was over there, I did make a decision that I'm going to try and start writing a comedy
Stand-up routine.
A stand-up routine.
Right.
I said this to you. What did I say? I'm going to write a comedy. And then you said script.
Yeah,
TV,
like a TV
show. And all it is I do this for the podcast anyway. Whenever I see something funny, I'll note it down and we can sometimes talk about it on the podcast. We have some funny moments. I'm sure you do the same. Yeah. But there are some things that are just probably a little bit too long probably to put in the podcast. So I've decided to start like fleshing out with it almost like a scripted.
Yeah.
So I did want to try out 1 or 2 routines.
Okay, so we're supposed to, all the millions of listeners out there, now at this point, the lights go down, the spotlight's on Daena on a stage, and we're all there with a beer in our hands waiting to be entertained.
And I'm really awkward and cacking myself backstage.
Okay.
The worst part about it is that I know my delivery is terrible. And I'm not even like that funny. 10-month-olds don't really get humour yet. They just don't understand anything other than slapstick. The other day, my little one walked in whilst I was on the loo. This is all true, of course. Which itself is like kind of rude, but I thought I'd try and make light of the situation by asking her to pull my finger because I was on the toilet. She didn't pull the finger, so I thought I'd just do a little shit fart anyway. So, just right on cue. She did not laugh either. So I'm just there trying to make her laugh. She's walked into me having a shit. I've done the shit fart anyway. It's still not worked. Yeah, she sort of just looked at me like with an awkward, sorry smile. You know that sort of sarcastic smile that kids have where they don't really know what's happening, but they're sympathetic. It really took what could have been a really funny moment and turned it into like a moment of sorrow for me.
Ruined it.
That's the first little sketch. The next one, nobody warned me about how toddlers poop. My 10-year-old will legit walk into a corner.
10-year-old?
10-month-old. She's 10 months. 10 years. That really changes the image of it. My 10-month-old will legit walk into a corner, stare at the floor, and squint onto all fours. It's as close to being a dog that humans can possibly get. And as they naturally pull all kinds of faces you could never imagine a baby could pull. I've read this pretty badly. One of those faces, somewhat ironically, is as though someone just walked into her room and pooped in front of her. I'm going to keep developing it. The hope is I want to get 5 minutes worth of content, refine it, and then I might go to an open mic at some point. You watched the Coronation, didn't you?
I tried to watch it. You watch it as much as you can with a toddler. I said I tried to watch it. I wasn't even that bothered about it.
Yeah.
I knew it was on. I knew it was a momentous occasion and I should really pay attention to the main bit. But I made a note because I knew you weren't able to watch it. So I thought I'd make a note of the key things that kind of happened that are worth talking about.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of the listeners out there, if you did watch it, you'll have noticed some of these as well.
All of our regular listeners will know that I get all of my news sources from 2 main sources. TikTok and Twitter. So I did see a lot of these on TikTok whilst I was over there.
So if you haven't seen these on TikTok and maybe you watched it on telly or maybe you haven't seen any of it, these are like the key takeaways from the Coronation. I think the first thing to be aware of is Harry turned up. I don't know if we're allowed to call him Prince Harry anymore. I guess not. It's just Harry. Princess Anne was seated right in front of Harry and the TV camera was like directly in front of Anne. And she had this huge feather on top of her hat, and you just couldn't see Harry's face at all.
I saw this.
You can't help but feel that was entirely deliberate. It has to be. Yeah. When you think how meticulously these things are planned.
I think as well, the camera angle literally was perfect, because if you move the camera to the left or right, it's not in the way.
Exactly, yeah. So they must have known where the camera would be situated. They must have known that in front of Harry, you can have somebody who's wearing a big feather hat and it's going to block his face.
I'm not sure I like this conspiracy theory that you're concocting.
What else was there? There was the crown when the Archbishop of Canterbury trying to put the crown on King Charles's head.
I saw this. Was he wiggling it around?
He was like trying to force it on. He was like, this is not the right size. This is probably one that is going around a lot on TikTok. Is the footage of the Grim Reaper just walking in the background in the corridor, just like biding his time, waiting for this to be over. There was a famous prophet or like future vision teller,
Socrates or
Nostradamus.
Nostradamus, yeah.
So somebody has like written a book interpreting his prophecies into sort of like modern.
Yeah, I've got it.
My girlfriend was telling me this interpretation of Nostradamus says that King Charles will be dead in 14 years and Prince William will be the last monarch of the United Kingdom.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see if that's true. We should find out.
I think that's quite highly likely to be the case. I really think they missed the trick with it, because if they'd have just passed it straight to William, that would have been the admirable thing to do, in my opinion, because he's probably then going to be on it for 60, 70 years, right?
Yeah.
So he can solidify the monarchy.
Yeah.
They can modernise it because he's younger. And then, but it was just you just had all these stupid figures and relics and stupid traditions that they put in there. And it's all sex and sizzle from 100 or 200 years ago, but in the modern day world, it's not sex and sizzle. It just looks very fucking weird.
And also, it cost the taxpayer like £150 million or something. And a few weeks before the coronation, it was announced that King Charles, of the wealth that we know about, it owns over like £600 million and probably a lot more. Apparently, there's a lot of laws in place which protect the crown's money from being publicly disclosed. So we know about 600 million, but he's probably got a ton load more than that. So why couldn't at least half of the cost come from the king himself, to pay for it? And why do we have to pay for it? And especially
why should he pay for his own coronation? I mean, that sounds a bit weird. I mean, I suppose you would pay for your own party though, wouldn't you? That's fair.
And actually, when you think that 64% of the British public said they either don't care at all or care very little about the coronation, that's not good use of public tax money.
It's not. I was thinking about this. I want to hate the fact that they cost a lot of money, but like the sensible side of me just thinks they probably bring in far more than they take away. So I'm very skeptical, and I don't particularly like the monarchy, but I do think that they're probably net surplus in terms of like tourism and stuff. Yeah.
There was a good photo of a king in his like golden carriage going through the streets of Westminster or wherever it is, and the hundreds of potholes in the road had all been filled in with sand, so it looked like this like patchwork quilt of like bits of sand in the road. And the comment was like, "There's something very beautifully ironic about a golden carriage being ridden along potholes where they can't even afford to."
I did see there was something on TikTok where they got a lip reader to lip read him whilst he was in there, and he was basically like stressing out. He was saying like, it's always delayed, like why can't we always just be on time, and I'm bored, this is boring.
Oh right.
Yeah,
along the genuine lip reading.
They did some analysis on it, and that's what they thought he was saying. He's sort of coming across as a bit of a spoilt brat, which I mean, if you're going to be a spoilt brat, you might as well be the king.
So he is the king, formerly known as Prince. The only other thing to mention about the coronation was the arrests of the Republic demonstrators.
Yeah, I didn't really see much about this. I saw the headline, but you've got some
really
interesting...
Yeah, very interesting, because Republic are very clear that they've got these beliefs, and they were going to demonstrate at this event, and they'd been in communication with the Met Police for 6 months leading up to this event. And a couple of days before the coronation, a new law was quite quickly passed through Parliament, which added more police powers to shut down demonstrations.
Okay.
So that meant if you had any equipment on you which showed that the police suspected of you like gluing yourself to something or obstructing businesses.
Because I did see like a van being loaded up with loads of picket signs saying "Not our king."
That's it.
And it was like there was like hundreds of these signs being loaded up by the police.
Yeah, and actually, so the Republic had been communicating with the police saying, this is exactly what we're planning to do. You know, you've got no problem with this. This doesn't breach the law, does it? This, you know, we're going to do it peacefully. We've got these signs, etc. Anyway, on the day, the police arrested all of the top figures of Republic.
I mean, they were asking for it.
And they weren't told why they were arrested at the time. And then after the event, they were released without charge. And the Met Police were forced to sort of issue a semi-apology.
I saw
like,
that.
Maybe we shouldn't have arrested him. Sorry, sort of thing. And you kind of think now, well, right, we've got these emergency laws which already restrict people's right to demonstrate anyway. And now you're taking it a step further of arresting people
preemptively.
Yeah,
oh, God.
Don't even meet the criteria, which is very restrictive anyway. So it was a bit of a disgrace. Anyway, one of the Republic members went on LBC radio the next morning. I just happened to catch it as I was driving.
So this is one of the prospective protesters, right?
He was a protester that wasn't arrested.
Yeah.
So only like the top figures were arrested.
An LBC for our non-UK listeners.
Let's Get Britain Chatting or something like that. It's like a big London radio station. So a guy from Republic was saying, we're not anti-monarchy. The issue we've got is it's anti-democratic, because the king, even though traditionally they don't get involved in politics, and maybe King Charles may not get involved in politics, the potential is still there.
It's still there.
At the end of the day,
the power is there.
The Prime Minister is given permission by the King to run the country, and the King still has the right to declare war or to do whatever they want. So how can that most powerful political figure in the whole country be remaining in one family generation after generation without any public say whatsoever. And he was saying that is Republic's issue. It's not the fact that we've got a king. It's the fact that nothing's democratically elected.
They're all so fucking inbred as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can just tell they all like crossbreeds between like horses and pigs.
Yeah.
Did you see the Stephen Fry comments?
No.
Again, I saw this obviously on TikTok. I'm sure it was Stephen Fry, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was being filmed saying, I would rather have the monarchy as it is now, because otherwise you get somebody like the presidential system in like America or in France, where they elect the people. And although that seems like it's democratic, currently where we are right now, imagine if you had both a Sunak and then like, let's say a Boris Johnson above him as the president, it could make the situation like a lot worse. At least the threat of having something that's neutral, like a Prince Charles, that could, if absolutely needed, jump in. Yeah. At least the threat of that might keep them slightly more in check than they might otherwise have been.
Yeah, interesting view, yeah. I mean, we've got absolutely no say over who that person is. You know, Prince Louis.
It's not democratic.
Prince William's son, Prince Louis, looks like an absolute nut job. Like, he seems absolutely
Can you imagine
crazy.
if, like,
he's going to be a future king, isn't he?
He could be a future king in, like, is he third in line?
Yeah, he must be, yeah.
So if he's third in line, it could be within years that he could be. If there's an accident or something like that. You know?
And you just can't rely on people who never ever been voted into. And we're probably lucky that the royal family have been...
Except the Queen. She was pretty reliable.
She was, yeah. I think we've been quite lucky with the royal family recently, over the last 100 years or something, but you just don't know, do you?
No. It'll remain to be seen what happens with the monarchy. Personally, I think that it won't last another 50 years.
I can't see it. I can't see it all coming to a halt. I just can't vision how that's going to happen. You know, what would happen? What would replace it? Like a written constitution for the people or something? I don't know.
Maybe.
And then all of the royal jewellery and all the palaces, what are they going to be? Public museums?
They need that big diamond on the crown, they've got to divide it up and send it out to everyone in the country.
Send it out to all the job centres and give it to the poorest people.
Can you imagine?
I think its time is coming to an end because society seems to be moving away from, like, why have you got all of that power? And the message is so easy to spread across.
So you think it's a case of
media.
When rather than if?
It's when, definitely, and how, you know, what's going to replace it.
Okay.
But serious conversations will be had in the future, I think, about what would be a better way forward.
What do you think of his fingers?
Tasty. They'd be great in a butty, wouldn't they?
Prince Charles's fingers would be great in a butty. Russia. So, yeah, there's been a lot going on lately in Russia. I mean, we could blast through a few of the bits and bobs, but there was the drone attack where they think, was it Ukraine was trying to attack? Well, they're saying it might have been Americans that tried to do it.
It said on Have I Got News for You, which is a comedy show, like it just looked like somebody threw a frisbee on top of and they were like, that can't be a serious attempt at trying to kill Putin.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a Russian
I mean, it's a stretch, isn't it?
Like
because they did say, Russians came out and said this was an attempt on Putin's life. When you look at it, it looks like not even
the whole world
a bad firework.
If the whole world wanted to try and kill him, surely they'd do a better job than that.
By actually killing him.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's going to die soon anyway, because
he's
just not looking or sounding particularly healthy. Poland came out and said that they're going to rename that little portion of land between, I forget, was it Belarus, Lithuania and Poland?
Yeah.
Formerly a part of Polish territory in the 1700s or something a long time ago. From Kaliningrad to something else, the old Polish name for it. The old name is Królewicz. And that's really interesting because that to me is a very aggravating type of thing to do. So, like, why would you do that? That piece of land I always thought was weird because it's completely detached from Russia and it's a lot more in central mainland Europe.
I'm guessing it's got an airport, Kaliningrad. Could you go on holiday there? Like before the war? Like, is it a holiday destination?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not walled off, probably.
Interesting.
Yes.
I'll look at it.
Loads going on there. That seems like it's heating up. I don't think it's going to be much longer before that either comes to peace talks or something serious happens.
Yeah, I've heard that the Wagner mercenaries that the Russians rely heavily on are also getting a bit unsettled. I think
they were running out of ammunition.
So
they said, like, we're going to stop helping you because we're running out of ammunition. So, like, the following day, they had all of their ammunition.
Okay.
But you just think, I don't know about you, but I think about that like, yeah, you've got your ammunition, but we're going to fucking kill you down the road.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to happen, isn't it?
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, they're mercenaries, aren't they? They're looking out for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah. The Trump case, man, I'm not even following this. I used to follow Trump a little bit just because it was funny to see the American political system go tits up.
It was a civil rape case brought by E. Jean Carroll, who I think was a journalist.
Yeah,
from what we're read.
I love the name. You made me correct this because I put Jean Carroll.
Yeah.
And you said, no, it's actually E. Jean Carroll.
Yeah.
So if she was called Billy or William.
Bill.
Bill E. Jean.
Not my lover.
She's just some girl that I raped.
So, civil rape case.
Yeah.
And Billie Jean was suing Donald Trump for rape, sexual abuse, and defamation.
Yeah.
And I think the jury in a civil case...
Was it 1990? No, 1996.
In
so
90s,
it's nearly 30 years ago. This.
Yeah. I'm not sure why she decided to bring it about now, but clearly it's going to damage his...
reputation massively.
And attempts to become the next president again.
Yeah, and probably his bank account as well.
Yeah. And I think what it sounds like from this civil case is that they found him essentially guilty of sexual abuse and defamation, but not
the rape. Yes.
And also, as we mentioned in previous podcasts, for a civil case, you only have to find in like 51% favour, not like beyond all reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
So it's more likely than not that he sexually abused her and defamed her, but can't say for
probably this jury is still out on the rape thing.
Yeah.
You would have to say, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think if you are found to have sexually abused someone but maybe not raped them, the image in people's mind is still sufficiently bad to destroy your reputation.
Yes.
No one's going to say, yeah,
I mean,
at least he didn't rape her.
He hasn't doused himself in glory in some of the comments he's made over the years. Well, let me read out some of the, not just comments he's made over time, but also specifically during this case.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, this guy is like the master at digging himself further into holes.
He is, yeah.
But he somehow manages to roll out of that hole every time.
Yeah.
He is shameless. In a way, you got to respect it. But I mean, I couldn't live like that. He said that she was too ugly to go on living.
Jesus.
This was recently, not in the 1996. This was like a few days ago.
It's nuts.
Previously, he said, grab them by the pussy and you can do anything. And then when asked about this in the case, he said, he doubled down on it and basically said, well, historically, that's what you could do with the stars.
Yeah.
And then he went on further to say, for millions of years, you've been able to do that. Like you would know. So, and then he said there, you wouldn't be a choice of mine, to be honest. And this was in reference to finding her attractive.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is going on in the courtroom. I mean, this guy just...
It's like school ground arguments, isn't it?
This is the president, the ex-president of the United States. It's absolutely mental.
And it sounds like he didn't really put up any defence. He just chose to dial in digitally and answer questions on a video screen.
Yeah.
Didn't bother turning up in person, didn't bother having an expensive lawyer representing him, just answered questions like a little kid.
Well, she's been awarded $4 million, hasn't she? Which, that's got to be pocket change for a man like Donald Trump, surely.
I guess so, yeah. Well, his finances are dodge, aren't they?
They are dodge, but it makes me think, why don't you just pay her the $4 million up front and not have all the damage? Because it would cost him probably hundreds of millions.
Yeah, I think he likes the limelight. I think he likes... Because if he can go in public, say all this stuff, his fans will also double down and say, and support him. And he's come out and said, well, the judge was a Clinton appointed judge and it's all fake news and he's been set up and loads of people will believe it.
Compare that to Theresa May wandering through the fields
of wheat
or Rishi Sunak and like his pharmacy work that he used to do
and trying to pay with a credit card
at the petrol station. How do I use this again? Top Shelf. We normally start with Top Shelf.
So just to recap for any new listeners or for those who may have forgotten, Top Shelf is our opportunity to test an alcohol that is available for you to buy somewhere, either online or in the shops or in a bar. And we'll summarise it for you, give you a good taste test and a description. And if you fancy it on a night out, you'll know what to expect.
The whole point of this podcast, which we should say at the start of every podcast, by the way, is to honk you into the weekend.
It is, yeah.
We're trying to furnish you with information so that while you're eating your pork scratchings or whatever in the pub, or whatever you Americans do, your cookout. You've got stuff to talk about.
For those watching online, you see this lovely box with a great label on it that says Top Shelf. I'm going to open the box. We'll get a jingle for this soon, but in the meantime...
Great jingle. What have we got here? I'm excited about this.
We've got a golden bottle.
Oh my God.
AU vodka. This one, I'm actually quite annoyed with myself for paying money towards this brand because I don't really like what they stand for.
Oh, right, okay.
From what I know about them. So,
and for those that don't know, Salmon is a pretty morally sound guy. Like, you're vegetarian. You tend to lean a little bit more left politically.
Yeah.
A bit more socialist. You don't do any testing on animals, do you? Not frequently?
That's coming up later on.
Oh, it is, yeah. Most people do. Do you want to describe this bottle, though? Because that is glorious.
Well, yeah. I'm ashamed to give it praise for reasons I'll come into. Not that they're an awful company, but it's just not as like genuine and natural as I would have liked. So they do a lot of different flavors. AU vodka. The bottle, if you're not watching, is big gold bottle.
It's like chrome gold, isn't it? Like bright
shiny
gold.
Yeah. And it's got an embossed sort of like flavor label at the bottom. It says flavored spirit drink. This one's pineapple crush. They did a black grape flavor, which I think got huge sales because Floyd Mayweather was pictured with it.
Right.
They've also targeted a lot.
Looks glorious, that. It looks very premium.
Yeah, you go on their website, you can see like a gold-plated like Range Rover and Lamborghini and stuff. So their whole branding is gold everything.
So it's aimed at chavs by sound of it?
Essentially, yeah, I think so. Before we do a taste test, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. There was a famous ball boy in a Premier League match. It was Swansea versus Chelsea years ago now. And the ball boy dived on top of the ball to try and waste time.
Didn't he get kicked?
And Eden Hazard came up and kicked him.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that's it. Eden Hazard kicked that ball boy. And he happened to be the son of the Swansea owner.
Oh,
so
wow.
he's called Charlie Morgan and his father's called Martin Morgan. And they own this chain of hotels, Morgan's Hotels and things. So obviously Charlie Morgan is a son of a very, very wealthy guy.
Self-made man, basically.
Maybe the dad is, but not the son. So obviously he's been given a ton of this money to set up his vodka business. He's just decided to make bottles plated in gold or in a gold colour. He's now worth £40 million, having set up this business in 2016 alongside a school friend.
Wow.
And essentially they had some contacts in the music industry and got loads of like rappers and stuff to pose with it in nightclubs.
Why did he choose to set it up next to his school friend?
With his school friend.
Right, okay. So you do the open. So you open the bottle. It's screw top, is it?
It is a screw. Or maybe a cork. Let's give it a.
Oh yes.
It's a small plastic cork.
Black
which is disappointing.
plastic.
They've gone cheap on the cork. I'm going to give it a pour. So this is pineapple crush flavour. They do other flavours. There's like, I think there's like blue raspberry or something. And
as you're pouring this, can you explain what they stand for? Because you seem to be quite up on that.
What do you mean?
Oh shit, that is a very healthy shot, mate. For those of you not watching, this is like nearly full to the brim, right? It's like a double.
I'm expecting it to be quite sweet. And
If it's not, you are fucked.
No, I don't really know what it stands for. All I thought is it's just like the son of a multi-millionaire who's just been given a load of cash to set up a vodka business.
Does he do any charity work? Have you looked into that or
No,
not?
I haven't, no.
Because if he did, you got to eat your words on the next
I will.
podcast.
I'll eat my words if he is genuinely honest, nice guy. But my impression from first judge is bit of a jav.
No
like,
bad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look, this looks like Gatorade.
Does a horrific colour, isn't it?
It is horrific. It is like luminous green.
Yeah.
Like if you draw on a piece of paper with a luminous green marker pen, that's what this drink looks like.
This reminds me of Fifth Avenue in Manchester when you get a £1 vodka Red Bull and the Red Bull would come out of the squirty spray gun.
Yeah.
And it was...
Anyone listeners from Manchester will absolutely love that reference. So, oh my God, I'm not looking forward to this now. Cheers. Oh my God.
It does taste quite nice.
That is very good. It's not harsh.
No.
That is Moorish.
It does have the vodka kick to it.
What percentage is it?
It's 35.2%.
That does not feel like 30. I'm impressed with that.
Yeah.
Just for listeners, what's the name and brand again?
AU or O vodka. This is pineapple crush flavour. I'm just going to read the description on the back as well before we move on. Gold, symbolising power and perfection, represents the exceptional taste of our O or AU pineapple crush. We have combined our award-winning 5 times distilled vodka with the finest crushed pineapples to create a exotic taste with a vibrant yellow liquid. So yeah, I do feel like it's quite a chavvy drink. You know what I mean?
It is, but that's obviously part of the appeal, isn't it? I mean, there's a market for everything. What I would say about that is that I do like my vodka 6 times distilled, not 5.
Yeah.
But
you can taste that it's only been distilled 5 times.
Mark them down a bit.
Yeah.
So instead of 1 out of 10, it's
it's
a half.
0. To be fair, if that was a blind taste test, you didn't see the bottle, you didn't know the backstory, and you didn't see the colour of the liquid. You just
I'd probably give it a 7.
Yeah,
it's quite nice. Yeah. All right. Moving on. That was top shelf. We've got here 2 beers and a puppy. I do not have a fucking clue what this is, mate.
This is just something for you to have a little think about.
It sounds like you're about to tell me off.
No, it's not. It's a way of thinking about the people in your life. And so think about the people in your life and apply this criteria to them.
Right.
They're either a double no, like 2 beers and a puppy, no. I'll come into details in a minute. Okay. Or a yes and a no, or a no and a yes.
Makes sense, mate. Makes sense.
Or a double yes. So, first question, would you have 2 beers with them? So it's called 2 beers and a puppy. First question, would you have 2 beers with them? If it's yes,
I see where this is going.
They're a nice person, you want to spend time with them. Would you let them look after your puppy? If it's also a yes, that means, you trust them with a prized sort of family member, essentially. They're honest, they're reliable, you can trust them with something that you value very dearly. So the people that you would have 2 beers with and that you would trust with your puppy are the people in your life that you want to keep and surround yourself with. So if they're like a yes and a no, like maybe, I'll have a few beers with them, but there's no way I'd let them look after my puppy. And they're the sort of people like fun to be around, but don't value them too highly. They're just like
that makes sense.
Nice, friendly people that are worth.
So the people that you trust with the puppy, but not have the beers with, they're the boring people, right?
Basically, yeah, but they also have their value. It's just a way of categorizing your sort of like people in your life. They're also worth keeping, but it's the double yeses. If it's a double no, you wouldn't go for a beer with him. You wouldn't trust your puppy with him. There's absolutely no need in keeping them in your life. Yeah, get rid.
I quite like it. It's interesting that. And it's rememberable. 2 beers and a puppy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I like it.
Have a think about the people in your life. Would you have 2 beers with them? Would you trust them with your puppy?
I'd have an AU with you, mate.
Yeah.
And I don't own a puppy, so it's irrelevant.
Animal testing. Right. This is kind of like the reverse Brexit, The UK had a law which the EU didn't. So the EU requires cosmetic products to be tested on animals.
Yes.
On rats and things like that. The UK passed its own law to ban testing on animals in the UK.
Sounds like something morally in the right place.
Yeah, it's weird,
for a change.
We didn't know that about Britain.
It's normally the other way, isn't it? It's like, you can test on animals. Now we need you to test on them severely.
Yeah.
You need to test on them to death. This lipstick, put it on the animal. No, drown them in it.
And since Brexit came about, the whole argument for Brexit was like, well, we want to pass our own laws. We don't really care about conforming with the rest of the world. We want to do what's right for the UK. Well, the UK have now reversed this decision to ban testing on animals for cosmetic products.
That looks so bad.
Because they want to be in line with the EU and make trade more efficient. So it's kind of like, hang on a minute, what was Brexit all about then if we were able to pass our own laws previously?
And then they've just unwound it.
And then since Brexit, we're now trying to pass laws or reverse laws so we can get more in line with the EU. First of all, it's a massive shame that we're now going backwards to the point where we're testing on animals again, which we're supposed to be a progressive country, finding new ways to become a better society.
It just makes you think, how much have they thought it through if within a few years they've unwound it again? Like it's been
25 years. It was 25 years ago that we passed the law to ban animal testing.
Oh, right. So that was the only one that wasn't allowed. I get it now. I get it.
So yeah, for 25 years, we've not been testing on animals. The argument for Brexit was supposedly we want to create our own laws, but actually we're actually scrapping our own laws to become more in line with the rest of the EU.
I wanted to talk about Brexit.
Okay.
Because I was on holiday and we got friendly with this German couple that had a kid as well. The kid was like a month or 2 older than Evie. I ended up just at dinner, we were both in a corner trying to keep our kids quiet. And I was like, oh, she's cute. And
were you speaking German?
I wasn't speaking German. And that made it sound really creepy, didn't it? Oh, she's cute. She's cute. But and then we got talking, and then the 4 of us, me, my wife, and this German couple, and obviously the kids, we all ended up having dinner together. at some point we may go and visit them in Frankfurt, or they may come to Manchester to see us. But they asked specifically about Brexit quite early on in the discussions with us.
Okay.
And this is obviously, it's interesting for me because it's the German perspective, or rather the European perspective on what Brexit was. And his perspective was, and this is more for your interest here, I don't know how interested the listeners are going to be to this, but he was saying that the Germans really didn't want the UK to leave because they feel like a bit of a burden of power.
Okay.
So saying that Germany's now the only really big country in Europe. All right, France is pretty big.
Say
but
France would have a lot to say about that.
yeah, well, I'm sure they have a lot to say about everything. But the UK and Germany used to be on relative parity in terms of like size and clout and influence, right?
Yeah.
So the UK leaving's left a lot of responsibility on German shoulders, and I think it's got a lot of Germans thinking, is Germany getting a good deal from Europe?
Yeah.
But I felt, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is I felt embarrassed. I felt secondhand embarrassment for our country's political decisions. So I felt like I had to justify to this random couple that we'd met on holiday why we left Brexit and that we don't really want it and that and like the whole country regrets it.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm having to justify it, and it's like I didn't fucking vote for it.
Yeah.
So it should be enough for me to say, well, I didn't vote for it. I think it's dumb.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm defending the people that did vote for it by explaining that they just weren't well informed, which is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a really bizarre conversation to have.
Not a nice situation to be in, is it? But I think because the arguments for Brexit were quite clearly, very well explained, actually, not in any sort of information.
They were executed well.
Yeah, they were. And so it's, from our point of view, it's quite easy to think, well, these are the reasons for Brexit. This is
350 million
on the side of
per
the
month, no, per week for the NHS.
Yeah.
Turkey not joining the EU, which they never were going to join the EU anyway. Yeah. And there was one other, I think it was immigration related or something.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And being in control of our own laws as well.
Yeah.
Bringing back power to...
Take back control, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So I think it's quite easy to explain why we ended up with Brexit. Not that it's the right decision.
Oh, God. I feel like these laws that they're now trying to align more back again with Europe is just the precursor to us just joining Europe again. And honestly, I would love to see it. I'm happy for countries to say, you know what, we was wrong.
Do you think Labour could or should take that policy into the next general election?
I think the right way to do it would be to put to the country in referendum, do you want another vote for Europe? So you're doing a referendum about a referendum. And that way, they'd evolve themselves. Why would they?
I think you should have a vote about whether to vote about going back into Brexit.
The thing is, they could just keep voting on whether they should join or leave Europe, and we could just do the hokey cokey.
Yeah.
The local elections, the Tories have been fucking decimated, haven't they? They've lost more than 1,000 seats at the local elections. I don't have a clue what this means. Can you explain in like idiot terms what this means?
I think most people who voted don't really know what it means, and that's what makes it a bit more interesting, because I think it's people have gone out and voted against the Conservative Party as a sort of the party representing our country, whereas actually this is about the people that go to your local town hall and decide whether they should put a new tree in the local park or something like that. It's very, very local issues that don't really affect your life that much. Nobody knows who their local councillors are, really. Nobody knows what actual powers they have. Does it have
an effect on power in Whitehall?
No, it doesn't. No, it's literally your local town. It's just an
indication of public feeling, I guess.
That's it, yeah. It's kind of like a measure of public support of how the government's doing, even though... Because what you're going to get is some Conservative councillors who are so passionate about their community that have probably done some really good work.
Being booted out because of a country's...
Yeah, and people are getting into local town councils who probably...
Don't give a shit.
And actually quite proud to go and sit on the council but not really do anything and just be like, well, look at me. And, I think that is probably happened in a lot of places. It is just...
This is one thing I like about the podcast is that... Like I'm more business, right?
Yeah.
And you're more politics and legal, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I think we probably bring a pretty good balance to the table about things. So yeah, I didn't really know that to the full extent. I've learned a lot on this podcast about politics through you just talking to me about it. Yeah. And I've got a lot more interested about it, but it's still all layman's terms to me, you know?
Yeah, so, if you had a complaint that your local park was overgrown and needed like broken bottles cleaned up properly or something, you wouldn't go to your local MP about that. You'd go to your local town council and say, what can we get this sorted out? And they'd arrange for a bin man or something to go and tidy it up once a month or whatever.
Everyone's profited from this except the Tories though, haven't they? So the Greens have got like 200 plus seats. Yeah. Lib Dems, was it 400 and odd seats? Yeah. And then Labour got, was it 600 or 700?
500 or 600, I think. Yeah. And Independents as well did pretty well.
What about the bin man guy, the bin head? Or is he not?
No, he stands for in the general election.
The general election,
right. So it has been good for everyone apart from Conservatives. What I would say is that when it comes to a general election, I don't think you'll see a reflection of these results because everybody knows it's either Labour or Conservative. Whereas in the local elections, you can say to yourself, well, I want to protest against the Conservatives, show them not happy, but there's no way I'm voting for a Labour councillor. I'll vote for the Lib Dems, which happens in a lot of Tory-area voters.
That's
Lib Dems get all of these seats, and the Lib Dems look like they're on a bit of a surge.
But they're not really.
But when it comes to a general election, if you're a Conservative, traditionally, and you don't want Labour in power, you're not going to vote for the Lib Dems because you want Conservatives. There's no chance the Lib Dems are going to become the major party, so you're going to vote Conservative.
So you think that it's probably flattered the Lib Dems?
Absolutely, yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
It's good that the Lib Dems are getting some additional support, but perhaps some of those areas will go back to Conservative. Perhaps some of them are being taken away from potential Labour.
It feels to me like having 3 or 4 serious contenders for government is a good thing.
Yeah.
And also I extend that to local councillors as well, because that's probably a good thing too.
Yeah.
Like it being a 1-2 party like standoff,
yeah.
to me, I just don't think that's a great thing to happen.
I think the only way you're going to solve that is to have proportional representation, which is where every party gets a representative say on policies based on how many seats they've got in the House. So instead of just having, we're now the biggest party, we've first past the post, we've got X many seats, we can decide everything. Actually, you could have 40% Conservative, 30% Labour, 20% Lib Dem, and actually all of the votes to pass bills, they get that proportional representation on there. So
speaking of parliamentary bills, this is moving very swiftly and smoothly on. I did look. I don't know why I came across this. Actually, I do know why. I was looking at the Telecommunications Act, the TSA, which is a new communications act that's coming out that basically requires telecommunications companies to comply with some security standards bullshit. And I'm talking about this because I've recently joined a telecom software company. I've got to learn about all this stuff.
Okay.
But it is quite interesting. But in amongst that, I found a tangent which was quite interesting, which was about the longest parliamentary act.
Okay.
And I mean in literal terms, the physically longest act. Paper terms.
Right. Okay. So it hasn't been around the longest. It's literally like the longest written.
Yeah, but it also happens to be like have been around for a long time as well. The longest UK parliamentary bill in 1821 is nearly a quarter of a mile long, 348 meters long, and it used to take 2 men a whole day to rewind the scroll of that paper. And it's a tax act. Shock horror. But that's a current parliamentary bill that exists right now today.
That's enough to put you off becoming a tax accountant, isn't it? I don't ever want to see that parliamentary act.
Can you imagine? Let me just check this act.
Yeah.
Fiverr special.
This week, I actually typed into ChatGPT, inspired by last episode about AI.
Okay.
Said, tell me the most interesting news story involving geese that took place in the last 100 years. Because we know my goose news is usually quite historical. So it starts off, one of the most interesting news stories involving geese in the last 100 years is the story of the Goose Express that took place in 1986 in Alaska. The story involves a woman named Anna Etta Moe, who lived on a remote island in Alaska without road access to mainland. When her husband became ill and needed medical attention, she turned to her trusted flock of 50 Canada geese to get help. She wrote a message on a scrap of paper, attached it to the leg of her favourite goose named Beestefelt, and asked for help for anyone who found the goose. Amazingly, the goose flew over 2,000 miles to the University of Utah, where it was found by a birdwatcher who noticed the message on its leg. The university's zoology department contacted the Alaskan authorities, who were able to track down Animo and provide medical assistance to her husband. The story of the Goose Express captured the imagination of people all around the world and has since become a legendary tale of resourcefulness and the intelligence of animals. It's been retold in books, articles, and documentaries, and even inspired a children's book. The goose, Biesterfeld, became a beloved figure in the community, and Anna Moe continued to keep geese as pets for the rest of her life. So after reading that,
I'm sus about that.
I asked for evidence, or like it says books, articles, and documentaries. I said, please supply me with evidence that this,
like the title of the books, or
yeah, I did get the title of the book actually. It was
okay,
but it was just called like Biesterfeld, the Goose Express, or something like that.
And did you look it up on Amazon, or did it exist?
No, I couldn't find it.
This is very sus, don't you think?
Yeah.
Because there's a few holes I've got in this, and it's really interesting that you've done this, especially after the last podcast. By the way, listeners, an absolute banger. AI-topia versus dystopia.
Yeah.
We spoke a lot about AI in that one. So 2,000 miles, did you say?
Yeah.
So that's a long way even for a goose to fly. That's not like a day or two. That's like
I think that's fairly normal.
That could be like weeks potentially.
Yeah. Well, they do. I think geese fly from the UK to America.
Yeah, but not in like a couple of days. She'd be long dead at that point.
Well, we don't know how ill the husband was, do we?
All right.
Yeah.
But
husband became ill, needed medical attention.
Arguments for Utah. You know that Utah is like a heavy Mormon community.
Okay.
If ever there's going to be a community that would action a note like that, it would be in Utah.
There we go. Okay.
So that makes me think that maybe it could be true.
University of Utah as well.
Yeah.
Somebody spotted it.
Yeah. How would they have found them though? Coordinates maybe, or?
Well, it depends what's on the note. Yeah, the note may have given an address.
Okay. I'm skeptical. I want to fact check
I'm
this.
also skeptical.
It's interesting, but if that is a story, it's a great story.
Yeah.
It, almost like movie worthy.
Potentially,
story,
yeah.
You know.
I'll do some more research then. I mean, I only spent a few minutes Googling it and I couldn't find any online news articles, but it's from 1986.
True. Okay, that's fair.
So, yeah, obviously there's no news articles online about it, but...
So it's from 1986, 120, 130 years ago, so they just got rescued.
1986.
1986?
Yeah, when we were born.
Oh, okay, all right. For some reason I thought you said 1886.
Headliner is 3 ridiculous headlines that have been in the news in the UK, usually in the UK, but actually we've gone global, haven't we, sometimes? And you're going to choose one of them this week, and I'll read it out, the actual news article.
So you know the headline only, but you've not dug into the detail, and I'm going to choose one and we will dig into the detail.
Yeah. So here are the 3 headlines. In fact, a couple of them aren't UK. So, Mum claims speed of aggressive Aldi cashier left her crying and shaking. We can all relate to that, can't we?
Aldi, for the American listeners, is like basically like Walmart if it was fully automated and very unpolite.
Yeah, they just absolutely fly through all of the products.
Yeah,
Don't
beep,
they?
beep, 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 beep.
You need like 10 hands to pack your
Yeah.
bags. Number 2. Endangered Hawaiian monk seals baffle scientists by getting eels stuck in their noses. Final one. California court rules bees are now fish.
The first one. Let's find out about Aldi.
So, Mum claims speed of aggressive Aldi cashier left her crying and shaking.
All the way to the Sun newspaper.
The Mirror, actually. The supermarket chain is known for its speedy checkout service, but one mum was left feeling rather upset by a disgracefully rude staff member at a North Yorkshire store. A mum says she was left in tears while shopping at Aldi after a confrontation with a cashier over the speed of his scanning. Nicola Fuller was shopping with her 3 young children when she became embroiled in a tense discussion with a disgracefully rude staff member. She told Teesside Live that she was left traumatized by his aggressive approach and the ferocious speed of the conveyor belts while checking out. The loyal Aldi shopper says the worker refused to slow down his scanning, even as food fell from the packing area onto the floor like a slot machine. The 35-year-old says customers in the Guisborough store in North Yorkshire were gawping as the cashier continued to scan, piling the food high. Eventually, huge towers of products piled up as Nicola frantically reached to pack her bags as quickly as possible. He could see my struggle when a tin finally fell. I began crying and shaking, she said. I knelt to the floor to pick up the food while simultaneously trying to watch my children. I asked the cashier to stop scanning. Then more food. It just felt like he was throwing the items at me. All right, Godfather of AI. So we touched on a bit of AI with Goose News. The Godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, his company got bought by Google for $44 million, and he's been a Google employee ever since.
Seems cheap that now, doesn't it?
He's like a neuroscientist, I think. He was fascinated to learn how computer modeling can be used to understand the human brain or something like that. And anyway, that led to him being one of the godfathers of AI, modern AI. He's since quit
So he's
Google.
like the Tim Berners-Lee of AI.
Yeah, I think he's one of three. I think there's three people that are nicknamed the Godfather of AI.
Okay.
He's one of them. And he's quit his job at Google because he wants to be able to tell the public freely about his concerns about AI. I've listened to a bit of what he said. And he said he expects in the next 5 to 20 years, there's a high possibility that AI will become so powerful that it could potentially damage the human race, lead them towards becoming extinct.
That's interesting. So he's not necessarily saying straight up extinct within 5 to 20 years, but damage them maybe beyond repair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, start the ball rolling, I think. He clarified that by saying it's not necessarily intentional from AI. It could be that AI just don't understand or respect the human race as essential. And actually, the analogy they discussed was like a human treading on ants. You're just going about your daily business. You stand on a few ants. You don't think anything more about it because you want to get to where you're going to.
I actually heard that bit. I think I saw that. Obviously, I saw it on TikTok.
Right. And he did say that if you actually think about AI, we're in control of it essentially, or people like to think we are, but always remember that AI has essentially read every single book that's ever been written on human manipulation.
And they can work together. Multiple AIs can talk.
And so if AI knows how to manipulate a human can still decide to allow AI to destroy the human race because it's being manipulated by AI.
Right, so I want to talk here. So this is Pork Scratchings. The point of this is to give you something to talk about in the pub with your friends, something a little bit different, something you may not know about, furnish you with something a bit interesting. So this is sniffing around the history of McDonald's Cocaine Spoon.
Ooh.
Now, you may remember in the late 80s, early 90s, they used to have the little stirrers, which were plastic, and it had a little cup on the end, literally about probably the size of your little finger, maybe smaller.
Yeah.
And that was used just to stir. It was a little spoon.
Yeah.
You didn't actually take any sugar from it because the sugars were in sachets as they are today. So I'll read it from the article here. In 1977, a controversy was brewing at McDonald's. The concern was over a small plastic utensil that had a spoon on one end and the company's name and most famous arches on the other.
Yeah.
Millions of spoons were in the company's restaurants all over America, and most people were using them for their intended purpose, to stir coffee. But others had discovered alternative use. The spoons were purportedly also ideal for snorting cocaine. I love the way that this author, Jake Rosson, for the mental floss, that's the name of the article, by the way, is like pretending to not know what cocaine is. Yeah. Purported to use. The contrast in family-friendly brand being misappropriated for illegal narcotics consumed began in the 70s, where drug using dealers were frequenting McDonald's noticed that their coffee spoons could hold enough powder for a potent sniff at 5 inches long, were small enough to tuck away for future use. PCP enthusiasts had the same idea. Drug culture even gave it the shorthand. It was called the McSpoon. There's a lot more about this, but basically they discontinued it.
So what
was
do they use
damaging their
now?
reputation.
Like wooden sticks or something?
The wooden sticks, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that was the wooden spoon,
So
the McSpoon.
they developed a perfectly good spoon to stir coffee, but because drug users abused what was given to them for free, it had to be discontinued. Coming up over the next 2 weeks, between now and the next podcast, we've got the second leg of the Champions League semi-finals.
Man City and Real Madrid.
Real Madrid and Man City is a massive game. That's surely the winner of the Champions League is going to come from one of those two teams. They drew 1-1 in the first leg, and it was clearly a match of two incredible teams, and both goals came from absolute quality.
So I was again in Lanzarote for this. I did not see it, and I really wanted to see it.
I suspect people in Lanzarote, with it being a Spanish island, would have all been supporting Madrid.
It's a great point, but it was just basically a UK kind of
holiday destination. Okay.
Resort.
Well, the next leg is on Tuesday night, I think, or Wednesday night next week coming up. And then the other semi-final was AC Milan
at
versus...
the San Siro.
At the San Siro. So Inter Milan were away in the first leg, and now they're at home.
Away.
They're going to swap their dressing rooms. Because for those who don't know, they stadium share. So it's funny that they have a home and away game, but that's the way it works. Inter Milan will be at home next week, despite winning 2-0 away last week. So Inter Milan are probably going to be through to the final, it looks like. And then they're going to play Real Madrid or Man City. Man City are obviously going for the treble, the Champions League, the Premier League, and the FA Cup. So
is the FA Cup Man United in the final?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is a really great... I mean, it's a shame that Madrid isn't in the final for the Champions League.
Yeah.
If it was, that would really make it great.
Yeah.
I mean, the Arsenal City thing, they're going to win the Premier League.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
FA Cup, they're probably going to win
I would have thought so,
I would say. Although, because United have come off the boil recently, haven't they? A little bit.
They're looking like they might slip up fourth spot with Liverpool hot on their tails.
Well, we are in form now, finally.
Yeah.
But I still maintain that I think Madrid will win the Champions League.
Yeah, I think you could be right, to be honest. In the UK, this weekend, it is the Big Bowls weekend. So bowling is like lawn bowling, we call it. It's essentially... I don't know how you can describe it.
It's like bowling, but for old age pensioners, isn't it? And instead of knocking down pins, you just have to land the ball near another ball.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So you bowl out a small one that you call the jack.
The jack,
and then you use the bigger balls to try and get as close as you can to it.
You're describing it now, and I'd quite like to play a game against you.
Honestly, right? I know it is a game for old pensioners,
people,
but I love it.
Have you played it?
I've got about 5 sets of balls in the garage.
Off.
I promise you, I have.
No, what?
Yeah.
How have you got this little secret?
We should have maybe, I don't know if we'll do the Big Bowls weekend, but most bowling greens are like, they're quite open to people using
public spaces. They're free, really short grass, perfectly flat, and there's like a gutter. Yeah. But instead of it being gutter just on two sides, it's all four.
Yeah. One interesting fact.
I bet you've got the fucking shoes as well, haven't you?
Of course I have. One interesting fact about lawn bowls is actually lawn bowls is a southern take on bowls, and crown bowls is the northern version. And crown bowls it's got like a very subtle mountain in the middle of the...
A subtle mountain?
A subtle mound in the middle of the green. So that makes it a bit more tricky because you've got the gradient to work with as well, whereas down south they prefer a flat green.
Yeah.
Final thing coming up.
We have got the Egremont Crab Fair. So the Egremont Crab Fair is an annual event in Yorkshire, is it?
No, it's in Cumbria.
Cumbria?
It's a very, very local, small town. Really, really
but it's got its niche,
rural.
It's got its niche fans all over the world, though, hasn't it? And it's basically you pull faces. There's a competition where you pull faces, and the winner is crowned the Egremont Crab Fair Gurning Champion.
The World Gurning Champion.
World Gurning Champion.
Yeah.
So if you're good at pulling faces, get yourself there. You stand a chance of winning. Now, I thought about this because I was on Facebook the other day. I was pretty drunk.
Yeah.
I'd had like a bottle of wine.
Okay.
And one of my friends had posted like a picture of her baby saying, "Oh, she's great at pulling faces," and me and my sick humour was like, "No, she's not.
Yeah.
She's shit."
This is her face.
So I took a few photos. I got as far as taking a few photos of me gurning.
Yeah,
because I'm all right at it.
Yeah, you are quite good. Yeah.
And we've talked a lot on this podcast about maybe entering the World Gurning Championships, which we may do. It's on the 15th and the 16th of September in 2023. And I got as far as posting it, getting the text ready, the image ready of my face. And then I realised it was 2 a.m. and I was ridiculing a child pulling a face. And I think I might have been on the toilet as well. So I think it was like a picture of me in the bathroom with a stupid face. So... like, it was a moment of clarity where I was like, don't post that.
I think if we're going to take it seriously, you need to like perfect one face, don't you? Because
we talked about this.
We tend to do like quite good faces. both of us are, I think we're all right. But
A range,
we have got a range, and I think we really need to work on our best.
Of one really bad face.
Yeah.
That's the Hollywood shot.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. And you need to be able to whip it out like, on demand.
Yeah.
and not bother with a range of them. So
get yourself down to the Egremont Crab Fair. We've been MachineDaena and Salmon.
Coronation
General.
extra.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks for watching if you're on YouTube or Twitch. Have a wonderful time. Don't forget to email us or like us or follow us or enjoy yourselves. Take care. Thank you.
Au revoir.